Hi friends, this is Leanne from Creative Wings Art Shop, and today we are going to work on a piece that is part of a kit that we are currently selling in our Etsy shop. It is our Yoga Girl kit, and I think that the sentiment on this kit as we go through it, or on this piece as we go through it, you will find is very appropriate and much needed during this time right now. So the kit is available on our Etsy shop, which is, we'll have the link below here in YouTube so you can take a look and get right to it and purchase it. The kit includes an 8x10 canvas. You'll have 3 little containers of paint. You will have all of these flowers, a makeup sponge, which we will use for stenciling and for doing some other things. And then you will also have the templates for the body of our yoga girl. You will have 3 hair colors. It will come with blonde, brunette, or redhead. So you can just choose one of those to your liking, whatever you want when you go to make it. You will have a pre-picked out pattern paper that will be the outfit of your girl. So I've picked out some really lovely different patterns. These are handmade papers from Blick that I absolutely love, and they're all just lovely in color and bright and whimsical. So you will have that. You will also have a little template for the writing, which is going to go above our girl, and then you'll have a brush, a foam sponge, I should say, that we will be using to put it all together. The left-hand side here, these are items that are not included in your kit that you may or may not want to use. You will need glue. That is probably, of all of these things, the one thing that you definitely will need in order to put it together, and that is not coming in the kit. However, I'm sure so many of us out there that are crafters will have glue at home. We love the tacky glue at the shop, but you can feel free to use any kind of glue that you have that you like to use. I pulled a couple washi tapes in green and in blue. You'll see how I'm going to use them. You don't necessarily have to have them, but if you do have washi tape as well, feel free to use it. A couple markers and a couple Sharpies, and then my favorite jet black Stays On ink. So we will also, again, this is not included in the kit, but it is something that can just add a little detail and interest to your piece. So these are the items. We're going to get right into it, and I'm going to just keep this going and kind of talk you through the steps as we get going. I have gone ahead. Now in your kit, you will find that these templates are just traced out for you. You'll receive them just like this. I've gone ahead and already cut my pieces out just to save us time on the video. And I've also inked them, a couple of them, the clothing and the hair. As far as the clothing is concerned, you will see on one side there are 2 shapes that are sketched or traced out. The triangular shape, that is what you actually will turn around and use the reverse side, the pattern side, for the top on your yoga girl. And then the solid, the second shape, the solid shape will end up being the shorts. And we'll talk about that and you'll see how it all goes together. But I wanted to bring that to your attention. In addition to that, I want to point out to you on the hair, when you cut this piece out, you'll notice there are these lines inside that kind of indicate where the bangs and the part are. That you are going to cut not fully all the way through. You're not going to cut it into 2 pieces, but you're just going to cut it partially so that you can slide your head, your face, under those bangs, and it will fit lovely. It's so fun. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to move. Again, I had pre-cut all of those pieces. Your kit will not be pre-cut. They will just be traced out, but that's going to be the first thing you're going to do. And now we're going to start on our canvas. So I'm going to take this container, which has a couple different shades of blue and white. I don't know how these are going to arrive at your house because I will be painting, or will be mailing them. I don't know how they're going to come to you, but whatever case, if they are mixed up, that's totally okay. We want to just do a really quick, I mean, it doesn't have to be quick because really we have a lot of time on our hands. We just want to do a very kind of whimsical back and forth. I'm kind of doing this cross hatching effect for our sky, okay? So based on how this is looking, your paint might be a little bit different. I might add a little more white into them once I start sending them out. But we just kind of want to add a little bit of this color into our canvas. And like all classes here, I always tell everybody at the shop to paint the edges so that we don't have to worry about framing our pieces. So, and you can kind of tell that I'm just, again, I'm doing like this curvy sort of whimsical, sorry about that, whimsical crosshatch. That's how I kind of break out my paint. That's what I kind of do with it, back and forth, just to kind of have a very light color, not to take us too long at all. Now, our next thing is going to be the ground, the grass, and I'm actually going to go right into it with this paintbrush. I'm not too concerned that there's blue on it. I didn't really, I've left a lot of paint actually in my container, but now I'm going to kind of just do a little hilly grass with that green, okay? Kind of get that in there. Again, you're going to paint your sides. Okay, just like that. Pretty easy peasy. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more because I can kind of see where it's a little drier, or where there's not enough paint on there as it's starting to dry. Now, once I get to this stage, I'm actually going to take my brush and I'm going to kind of just do some grass, or also like flower stems, and just kind of let them kind of come out a little here and there. And you'll see, very simple, just like that. I'm going to seal these up. It's really, we're done with the paint as far as those two colors, and move them off to the side. Now, I always like to add a little interest to my background, and in the shop we use a lot of stencils, but assuming that you might not have a stencil, you do have 1/3 third container of paint that is white paint, and I think we can just go in there with the handle of our paintbrush and add some fun little interesting dots, almost like clouds, just to add a little fun texture to our background. We like to do that a lot in the shop, just kind of building layers. We really don't have too much in our backgrounds here. Okay, next. I'm going to put that on the side. Another thing that I usually always have with me when I'm doing any of these classes are baby wipes. They're a great tool, not only for painting, but for cleaning up. So have one of those handy. I forgot about my washi tape, so let's go in and throw some of that in our background right now. And I am going to, whenever I use washi tape, for those of you that might not be familiar with it, it's a great little rice paper like masking tape in a lovely print. You can get them in so many prints, and I'm just using two very basic ones. This is a chevron, and then I also have a green with white polka dot one. So I'm going to just kind of add, again, just to get a little bit more interest and texture into our background, I'm going to add a little bit of washi tape up here. And I always, when I'm using it in art, I like to add and put some glue underneath it, because the washi tape never seems to want to stay for a long period of time. So since I want this to kind of last, I'm going to add more glue underneath it to kind of help it adhere to my canvas. I'm also likewise going to do the same thing down here with my green. And again, if you don't have washi tape, do not worry about it. Don't order anything special. It's just adding more texture to our background And whether you have that or not, it doesn't matter. You're going to be okay if you don't have it. And sometimes washi tape can be a little booger and not peel for you easily, as it is doing for me right now. Okay, so I'm going to add a little green, and you're going to see, I'm not crazy about how it's just sitting on top of everything, so we're going to smear a little more paint over it to help with that texture as we get going. So I'm going to come back over some of this with some of those grass and flower strokes and just kind of add a few more just to kind of give it some interest and some layering. Likewise, I'm going to come back over here and just going to cover up a little bit of my washi. And I'm just using my fingers. If you take any classes with me, you know that I really believe they're one of our greatest tools, and I use my finger for a lot. When I'm painting, when I'm smearing paint on, or doing any kind of crafting, I like to use that. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna call this background done, and we're gonna just hop right to our girl. Feel free to pause at any time if you're still working on your background, if you're not totally happy with it. Again, our baby wipes are our best tools to kind of wipe things off and start all over again. You might still have like a little paint left on there. Like maybe I feel like I added too much paint up here to this. So I can come in there with a baby wipe and just kind of take some of that paint off of that washi tape and kind of go right back on there, and it just looks lovely, right? Okay, I got a little bit of washi here. I probably will end up gluing part of my Yoga Girl on top of it, but I want to just kind of help it go down a little bit right now. So knowing that my background is still a little wet, I'm going to be a little cautious with gluing my Yoga Girl down. You can go ahead and now cut those pieces if you happen to have not cut them yet. Go ahead and give them a little cut, and that gives your background a little bit more time to dry. I'm going to give mine just a minute, and I will be right back with you. Okay, patience has never been one of my most my easiest virtue, definitely not. So I have gotten impatient with waiting for my little specks of white paint to dry. So I actually am taking a baby wipe in my hand, and I'm deciding to kind of add more clouds, which I'm kind of loving. So I'm taking a baby wipe. This is just a standard. I use the Costco brand or whatever kind, unscented preferably. You don't want anything with a lot of perfumes or that. Just because I don't know how those perfumes might react to the paint, and these seem to be perfect. And I'm just going in and dipping where I see the wet blobs of paint, and then I'm just with that baby wipe kind of going into an area of the background of the sky, and I'm doing a little dabbing, I'm doing a little rubbing, a little smearing, just to kind of incorporate some of that paint. And I think it looks even prettier. It kind of just softens that very bluish, tealish sky that was out there. So we've got more clouds, and I'm kind of digging that. So we're gonna kind of keep that. I love also kind of softening the back or the sides, the edges of the canvas by doing that as well. So I'm gonna kind of pick up some white and just kind of go across the edge a little bit to kind of add a little detail. Okay, so once that is done, our next step is going to be, I'm just straightening this out, to start to incorporate our Yoga Girl. Okay, so you've got a couple different components with your Yoga Girl, and I'm going to start to lay them out here. We have her bottom, okay, her shirt, and you'll see how it all will come together. We have her hair and her face. Okay. We have her neck, which is going to go underneath her face or her head, and then underneath her shirt, like that. Okay. And then we have her legs that will be crossed, such as this. And then her arms. So I'm trying to be careful because I know I still have some wet green paint down here. I like to have the elbows as close to the knees as I can. So this is kind of the general layout of our yoga girl, okay? And what we're going to do, and if I continue to move it around, she's going to continue to get all messed up. So we're going to just leave her like this. What we're going to do is, as for gluing her, you want to start with the piece of paper that is closest to the canvas and then glue your layers on top, which there's kind of a million different papers all over the place. I usually will start, and I'm going to grab a baby wipe. Hold on a second. I usually start with her bottom and I will then start with kind of her shirt and her neck and kind of build it that way. So I'm gonna kind of just go ahead. I'll kind of advise as I'm going through the steps and let you know what I'm doing. But this is generally how we want her to look in the long run. I'm gonna start to move those pieces off and just build her again. I wanted you to kind of see what we're going to, and that's what I was afraid of. But you know what? We're going to just take her face, make sure I don't have any more green on me. We will just turn her head upside down and it'll be like it never happened. Always something you can do. Okay, so let's just start with the bottom. I'm going to lift up our bottom. I'm going to put glue, and when we do glue, as I always advise in class, just kind of do a thin coat all the way around the edge and then in the center as well. We don't have to glue like we're frosting a cake or a cookie, but we just want to have it so there aren't any air bubbles and we don't want any chance of it actually falling or, coming off. Okay, it's going to be a little tricky with the head and the neck because the hair is a little bit longer. So we need to kind of glue in multiple levels here for this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first just put a small dab of glue here to get the head glued onto the hair, or the back part of the hair. Okay, remember we talked about having that little part and sliding that head through. Okay, so we've done that. Next, I'm going to take the neck. I'm going to dab a little bit of glue here. Tuck that under the neck or the head. All right. And the neck's going to go about that height. Yes, her collar is a little bit wider, but that's okay. You'll see how we're going to make that work in just a bit. Okay, so I'm kind of good with where that head is. What I'm actually going to do is put a little line with a pencil up there so I know where that head should be glued to. Turn this around. And I'm adding my glue. And there she goes. Okay, I also want to add a little more glue on her bangs. I'm going to hold that down. A lot of times people will have a hard time getting the paper to glue down. And I always tell them, hold it for a good count of 30 to 60 seconds and it will glue. It will stay glued down. Okay, now we're going to take our shirt. It's going to go around that height. our lovely tacky glue. When I don't leave it on its side, it takes a while to get it to the tip. Okay. Hold that down and secure that. Next, we're going to do our hands and our legs, our arms and our legs. Now, for the leg cutout, you'll notice that they are opposite directions. There's two different legs, and there's a little bump where that ankle is, and I kind of, when I look at it, I think it makes sense that that is kind of the outside of the leg. Okay, so I kind of put it with the bump facing down towards the grass. That's where that ankle is on the leg, okay? And then your arms. So you might want to have like your scissors with you to kind of just help pull up that side a bit. Okay, hold those hands down, make sure I got glue up there. I'm just holding that for a good count of 30 or so, and then I'm going to glue her legs down. Okay. So I've got them crossed at the ankle. One thing that's a really good tip is if you are having a hard time getting your papers down, and as long as you have a clean work surface, you can take your canvas and turn it upside down on its front, and then just rub the back of it. And what that does is it softens that glue, and it helps spread that glue to the edges of those papers so that all those little edges that are not sticking down, it will help kind of apply that pressure and get that glue to those areas. So it's whenever you kind of get to that good point where you are ready, make sure that your canvas is dry, that your paint is dry, and then flip that over, and do not, be aware of where you are actually putting it down. Okay, and then there you go. So that kind of helped her lean down a little bit. Okay, so once we have that done, the next thing we're going to do is work on her face, okay? And her face, honestly, is probably the thing that people really complain about or have a hard time doing, but it is so easy. You're going to take a pencil, and very easily you're going to just draw, and I do say it's easily, but honestly, don't make it more complicated. The nose is simply a C, okay? And the eyes are kind of two lines going like that with a few lashes coming off at the side. Don't give her spider lashes, just give a few on the side. The mouth is a heart, truly a heart, and then just a long line going across the lips that way for that little smile. So that is pretty much what we're gonna do. I'm gonna use a Sharpie, I'm gonna go straight into it. I do the nose probably half, like right in the middle of where that face is. Okay, so I always start with the nose to kind of get it going. I do the lines for the eyes just like that, and you can even make them a little thicker on the side and thin as they go in. Okay, and then I'm going to give her some lashes, just 3 little ones coming up on the edge. Okay. And then again, the mouth is a heart with one line going across like that. And then the little cheek indentation. Okay, so I'm going to use a couple markers. I've got just some small Tombow markers with a little bit of coloring. Maybe do a little bit on the eye, on the eyeshadow maybe, or just a little coloring there. Very faint, hardly can see it. I'm going to go a little bit darker for her cheek. And then, oop, wrong one. And then I'm going to give her some little reds for her mouth. Because I'm using Sharpie for the face, I can use the Tombow for the additional color. That will work really well. I'm going to give her some pretty blue eyeshadow. I just feel like she needs it there. There you go. She's sweet. A little more pink around. Bigger, a little bigger circles around her face. Okay. And you can even give her an eyebrow if you'd like. Just be careful that the eyebrows that you give her can really set her mood depending on the angle that you put them, and it can change her whole mood. Okay, so her face is now done. Her body is done. She's all glued down. Now we're going to add a couple different final elements, specifically her flowers. So we've got a bunch of different flowers here, and I tried to make sure that you had a good selection and a good assortment of colors. And I don't even know if I'm going to use all of these in this particular piece, but let's see how many we're going to do. And what I usually first do is I kind of just put, oh, actually, before that, let's add some lines. Let's add some depth to our grass. So I'm going in there with the marker and just adding black lines with it, just like that, to kind of just give it a little bit of depth. Now what I usually do is I'll go in and just put visually where, as I am looking at it, just blobs where I want the flowers to go. And this kind of helps me. I am a visual person. I like to look to keep things balanced, to keep my placement of things. So this is usually how I kind of do a step like that. And I will try to pick some colors that I do not necessarily have in her outfit, so that they, you know, so it brings and introduces all different shades to what we're doing. I like that orange. I do like that purple. And I will not put two of the same colors near each other. I try to change it up and make sure that they're well spaced out. I think she needs a few more flowers. Maybe we'll even put one. Oh, let's put one in her hair. Let's put one over here. Now maybe the one in her hair I might try to match, because she's definitely, you know, she would pick one that coordinated with her outfit. Let's do one more over here. Cute. Oh, she's so fun. Isn't she fun? Okay, she's getting there. Final step. So I've got some flowers left, but the final step for you, these are the words that you will receive. Sorry, I threw my baby wipe around them. The best thing that you can do is either you can write them yourself, which everyone is capable of doing, or you can just take a pencil and make your own kind of graphite paper. Take a regular pencil that you have at home, just scribble on the back of it, and then position it over your girl, and then use a pen to kind of follow the lines of this piece. When you lift it up, you'll have that kind of printed down on your canvas. And then you're going to use a Sharpie marker. Remember, that was one of the items that was not included in your kit. You're going to use that Sharpie marker to just fill in that line, that guide, okay? I'm going to just go ahead right now. I'm going to try my best to rewrite it again with first a pencil. And this is how, if you're going to try to write it on your own, how you should do it. So you're going to take a pencil and you're going to just space it out. The good thing is, if you do not want these particular words, which there's no judgment. I mean, sometimes I feel like this is what I need to let go of, so that's why I've selected these words. But if you want different words, if you write them yourself, you can do whatever you want, okay? I always start in the center, which is kind of hard to do, but that tends to be how I do my lettering. If you were trying to figure out what I was doing. And then I work back. I kind of figure out what the center of my words are, and that way I know that I'm not going to start that and then have this much room left for my other two words. So then I'm going to take my Sharpies and acrylic paint. Sometimes don't get along really well. So if I'm just going to do a really quick first run through, and then I'll come back over with it and make sure the thicker things are thicker, the thinner lines are thinner. Just a funny question, or a funny story. When my sister and I opened the shop years ago, this was one of our first pieces, or early on we did this piece. And I really knew that I wanted it to say what this one says in front of you. I knew that's what I wanted it to say. And I called my sister up. She was working at the time. I had her job, and I called her up and I said, can I put this word in a piece of art? Because we try to be, you know, I don't know, we don't use a lot of curse words or whatever in our art. So I asked her, can I do, and she's like, well, no. And I'm like, well, why not? It's really, this is what that piece needs to be. And she was like, well, no, do SH*T. And I'm like, no, like that, if that wasn't the worst, you know, like, no, I needed to say this because that is what this person needs to do. And we laughed about it because I did finally do it, and it has been so well received at the shop, and it's one of my favorite classes. I love to have my girl out. She reminds me of all those things that I really need to do, like letting that go. Okay, so you kind of saw what I did. I kind of went through, I just did my writing. You know, I cleaned up any lines then with my Sharpie, worked on making things thicker and thinner. Rule of thumb when doing lettering is if it is a downstroke, so this is considered an upstroke, but this here is a downstroke. The downstrokes are the thicker strokes. So anytime that you are like focused on lettering or doing something with lettering, keep that in mind. So she is done. Last step is going to be to ink our whole piece. Now, if I had a stamp of dots, I might add a little more texture over here or over here. But actually, I think she is pretty perfect as she is right now. So that is our yoga girl. And that is her from start to finish. Honestly, it's not a difficult project. I hope that you really enjoy watching her being made. I hope that you will consider purchasing a kit where you have the templates for these pieces and making one and hanging it somewhere very prominently in your house. We just redid our bathroom last weekend, and I think this one is going to go right in my bathroom so that every day I can see her, every morning I can see her, and she can help me start my day. So friends, this is again Leanne from Creative Wings Art Shop. I am so grateful to you. Thank you for being with me today, and remember to keep making art. Bye-bye.